Ooh, that's not right. But I will fix it.
What a good use of the
I know, right?
of our old show promo.
Yeah.
I do also like that I see a bunch of like X's and O's and my face is going.
Hold on, hold. Keep talking, vamp
Hey guys,
for me, Waleed, while
guys, week one is in the books. We got the waiver wire show going to help you with all your needs. We have dug in deep, and let me tell you, this was a crazy week one. Josh was just telling me off air. Last what was it? Last week one there was over 90 touchdowns.
it was like 80 something
Yeah, there were
touchdowns.
80 something touchdowns. This week there was like 50. That's what happens when it's storming in the Midwest. Uh, there were a lot of rain games. So I hope you guys are smashing those unders on your shows. But we're not worried about gambling. That's for Saturday. We go to Gamble Town. Here we're on waiver wire alley. I don't know. Where would a waiver wire be? I feel like an alley is a good place for it because I feel like once you're on the
No,
waiver
the
wire, I
waiver
feel like
wire, the waiver wire is a doctor's office. What are you talking about?
I think the waiver wire is an alley because I feel like I got mugged, and that's why I'm over here looking like I'm looking for something to save me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
as
the lost and found.
so, um, while Josh is still setting up, we're gonna do a quick run through of the top guys that I think need to be like looked at on the waiver wire. We're gonna start off with quarterback. I've heard some talk about getting Matt Stafford, and Matt Stafford will be available on your waiver wire in like 30% of leagues. He's not someone I talked about in my article this week because he wasn't even a top 12 quarterback, but he was playing a decent defense. But there were some things about that Rams game, and it's kind of interesting. I wasn't talking about Stafford because there's a bunch of guys on that Rams team that I think are interesting. And I'm going to be honest, everyone assumes that the Rams are tanking, and I get why they think that, but I don't know that they are.
I think that's just what happens when you don't have a draft pick for 2 years.
Yeah, like they're in the middle of a roster rebuild, but they had a lot of mid-round picks, and they were trying to like reload their team. But they still have Stafford. They still had Cup until Cup got hurt, and but there are guys on that team, and I think the coaching and the quarterback is good enough that if Stafford stays healthy, the Rams should be a 500 team just based on Stafford's arm. I mean, we saw it. They smoked Seattle,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like we have this habit of forgetting things. From like if it's more than a year ago in fantasy football, we forget about things that go right and things that are good, and we kind of underestimate and we underestimate just how bad a circumstance can impact. The Rams like injuries last year were insane. So
Particularly the injury to Matthew Stafford.
well, no, also their offensive line. Their offensive line, they were losing an offensive lineman at the beginning of the season once a game every week until they were just as bad as the Bears. And God knows that the Bears' offensive line does not look to have improved.
Right, but then you had an anemic offensive production from everybody else once Stafford went out. And I think Stafford just was never the same. And so after he had like a year or so to recover,
We
you know,
hope because that's still a neck back injury. Like that's one of
right.
those where if something happens to Stafford, like it could go bad real quickly. But let's focus on the quarterbacks that do need to be looked at here. There are three guys that I made a note of this week. We're talking about what's going on here. Oh, good God! I need to make sure. I almost deleted my entire article. That would have been bad. So the three quarterbacks I wanted to look at here, we got Jordan Love, Mac Jones, Sam Howell. I'm going to start with Sam Howell first. I'm only bringing Sam Howell up because I know he's a deep sleeper for a lot of people, and the fact is, he finished as a top 10 quarterback this week. That is more a testament to how bad all the other quarterbacks played than his stat line. He only
Right.
had 202 passing yards, one touchdown, one interception against a team that many people think is going to be one of the worst in football. Tony almost called that upset too. That was his long shot bet of the week that Washington would lose to Arizona, and he's just like, why do people think Washington is going to be competent? And sure enough, they did not look that competent. But
Right.
Sam Howell did show some flashes. I believe he also did have a rushing touchdown too. Like there were flashes for Sam Howell that's worth looking at. one thing I like to point out too, depending on how your league is set up, waiver priority matters. If you're going to have your waiver priority like resets, post Carl Malone, excellent question. Justice Hill or Gus Edwards, who's the guy to get?
Justice
The
Hill.
answer to that question is it is probably Justice Hill because Gus Edwards is just kind of a blob guy. And what I didn't even talk about Justice Hill in my waiver wire article, and I got to fix that because he does need to be addressed. Justice Hill is probably the addition, but also I'm not sure like.
The real answer is Kenneth Gainwell, to be honest.
Kenneth Gainwell. Here's the thing: Kenneth Gainwell had a lot of looks, but Rashad Penny was a scratch. Like, and I don't know if he was a healthy scratch. I heard he was a healthy scratch.
He was a healthy
I feel like
scratch.
He still hurts.
He was a healthy scratch.
That seems weird to me. Like, I'm very curious. The problem with the Eagles' backfield, though, is if you rostered any of their running backs last year, the RB1 in Philadelphia is Jalen Hurts. None of those running backs are actually really worthwhile. They're very low floor, low ceiling guys, and that's not who you should be looking at right now. Like, I didn't talk about Kenneth Gainwell. I don't feel bad about it. I don't.
Well, but you could still say you could argue the same situation for Baltimore.
I think I would. Like, honestly, there's a reason I really don't look at the running backs on teams with mobile quarterbacks too much, unless they have a really high run percentage. The only team that I really do that with is the Bears. And honestly, with the Bears, the only guy I look at is Roschon because he's cheap and he finished well. He had a high snap share, but at the same time, I still think his ceiling is going to be limited
by play script.
By Justin Fields.
Play script as well.
Like a lot of those goal line touchdowns that you would hope he would get, they're going to go to Justin Fields. They're going to go to Lamar Jackson. They're going to go to Jalen Hurts. Those aren't guys I'm really interested in investing in them. But if I had to pick, gun to my head, I'm taking Justice Hill. But honestly, I don't want to start any of them. There are so many better running backs that are available. But we'll get to running backs in a second. So I talked about Sam Howell. I want to talk about Mac Jones next here. Mac Jones was the QB2 of the week. I feel like Kyle Shanahan's like, if only I had taken him instead of Trey Lance like I wanted to. Mac Jones is an interesting one to me because I do not believe in Mac Jones. But there are signs here that make me think maybe he's a guy that's worth monitoring. I should also point out, I don't grab quarterbacks in week one on the waiver wire because I started talking about it, but I got distracted. Week one, if your waivers, unless your waivers, reset weekly based on record, I hold my waivers to try to make sure I maximize my priority. Having said that, week one is where you're going to get some of the best value because we spent all this offseason looking and studying and analyzing, and if we did our jobs right, we're only 50% right. That's just how fantasy football works. Like, everyone right now is in full-on panic. Like, oh, God, the sky is falling. Drake London got 0 points. I'm nervous, but I'm not too nervous. Like, I got to see what happens week two. I'm a lot more concerned at the fact that, Ritter had less than 20 pass attempts. But Drake London, all the metrics say that he should be a breakout player this year. If you look at history and trends. So I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to make a panic move in week one. But with Mac Jones, last year, the Patriots didn't really have an offensive coordinator. This year they have Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien has his flaws, but as an offensive coordinator, he's not bad. He's produced decent offense. So I find it interesting with Mac Jones had 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And the other thing that stood out to me is Mac Jones did it against the Eagles defense. The Eagles defense is a defense a lot of people predict to be a very good defense. So just by having a decent offensive scheme, doing it again against a good defense, Mac Jones is someone I think is worth looking at. But I'm not going to spend a waiver. I'm not going to burn my waiver on a quarterback because odds are I have a good top 10 quarterback. In week one, if you have Joe Burrow and you're panicking about Joe Burrow week one, just remember last year week one, Joe Burrow also put up a clunker. So it's 1 week is not where you panic. Week 3, when you have your elite guy and they start failing, that's when you panic.
Same thing for Chase. Same thing for every major weapon that you drafted early. Hold tight.
Yeah, don't panic too much. Having said that, though, Mac Jones, I'm not necessarily burning a waiver on him unless I'm in a league where I just don't have a quarterback. Like if I had Aaron Rodgers and he got hurt, I'm looking at Mac Jones or Jordan Love. I don't know which one I'm grabbing. It's gonna kind of be based on what I feel, but Mac Jones has a good matchup in week 2, so that could be nice. Jordan Love is one that he was the QB3 of the week. He had a really good game against the Bears, but he's another one where I've been having Packers fans just yapping in my ear about how good Jordan Love is. They're talking about him like he's the next Aaron Rodgers. I feel the need to point out that last year the Bears defense was bottom 5 in every major statistical category. Like their defense was atrocious.
Yeah.
If you watch that game, the pass rush, like the Bears did not invest in their defensive line outside of the draft and getting Yannick Ngakoue in free agency. Their defensive line was not producing any level of pressure. Jordan Love was throwing against a soft zone all game. Like, as a Bears fan, I was furious with the game plan for the Bears. Jordan Love looked good with the opportunities he had, but it's hard to say how much of that was him being good and the Bears defense being really, really bad.
Let's see how they handled their first game against Detroit, and then we'll talk.
Is Detroit next week?
No. Detroit is not next week. But
are the Packers playing next week? That is a question that is worth noting. Because if they have a good enough matchup, I might even still consider taking them if I needed a quarterback. But Jordan Love isn't someone that's high on my radar right now. And who do they got next week? They got Atlanta. Atlanta's defense might be a lot better, so I think that's going to be a much better indicator of how good they actually are. So that's covering the quarterbacks. I got to talk about running backs here. This is something, if you're in our Discord, we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. A guy that we have been ignoring. He's rostered in only 39% of leagues. And I believe Shane from the TH Fantasy Podcast mentioned that this guy is going to be the most hated player in fantasy football. And this man I am talking about is Tyler Algier. And the reason he's going to be the most hated is for the reason if you were a Bijan Robinson owner this week and you saw him getting those goal line touches and you're like, why isn't my running back that I took in the first round? He's going to be vulturing Bijan all year. Bijan's still going to finish the year as an RB1. But Tyler Algier might be an RB2 flex player. There's plenty of historical data that shows high percentage running offenses can produce 2 running backs. Sean Payton did it a lot when he was in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And Atlanta ran the ball more than anyone last year. Tyler Algier in week 1 had 94 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. He was on the field for 56% of Atlanta's snaps, and more importantly, 100% of their snaps inside the 5-yard line went to Algier. When it was goal to go, they gave it to Algier. He's a big boy. They just used him to pound it in, and that's going to be value. He's going to be at least flex worthy. Tyler Algier is the number 1 running back waiver wire ad for the season. You need to grab him. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like that covers Algier, but let's be honest. He's rostered in 39% of leagues. You might not even have a shot at him. If you do, someone else might get him. You need other running back options. This is where we start talking about Kyren Williams. I'm going to be honest. We as a Discord have been really low on Cam Akers. We don't like Cam Akers. We don't think Sean McVay likes Cam Akers. And that's why I'm kind of surprised. I think we all dropped the ball here on Kyren Williams. Because I didn't hear a lot of people talking about Kyren Williams here. But if you remember at the beginning of last season, everyone was really high on Kyren Williams taking that job. Mm-hmm. They knew no one liked him, but he got hurt in week 1 really early, never showed up, and so everyone kind of forgot about him. When Kyren Williams was healthy, he had 15 carries for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Rams. More importantly, he was on the field for 65% of the Rams' snaps, for their offensive plays. He's getting the snap share. He looks like he's the guy in Los Angeles. And Sean McVay, as much as we want to talk about him wanting to throw the ball, that is basically like a Shanahan-style offense. It's based off of a zone running scheme. They do need a running back to lean on a little bit, and it looks like Kyren Williams is going to be that guy. I think Kyron Williams, he's my number 2 waiver priority ad after Tyler Algier. Now, this next guy that I'm going to talk about, this is a guy that I did not see coming. I don't think anyone saw coming, and I don't blame us for not seeing it. But at the same time, there were signs that we should have been looking for. Joshua Kelly of the Chargers. Austin Eckler owners, it's time to worry just a little bit. He's not going to have the same share he had last year. Joshua Kelly was on the field for 48% of the Chargers' offensive snaps. Austin Eckler was on the field for 51% of those snaps. This looks like it's going to be used as a rotational committee. If we look at Dallas last year, saw Tony Pollard and Zeke were both getting like 50-50 splits, and people who owned Tony Pollard were getting mad. Why are you giving it to Zeke? Why are you giving it to Zeke? I don't think Kellen Moore likes overusing his running backs. I think this is just a symptom of how he runs the football, which means that Joshua Kelly is going to be a guy who's going to be on the field a lot, potentially on what I predict to be a top 10 scoring offense. And why do I predict it's going to be a top 10 scoring offense? Kellen Moore, as an offensive coordinator, has never not had a top 10 scoring offense. So getting running back shares of a team that's going to score a lot, good idea. I like Joshua Kelly. Grab him. Let's see what happens.
Eckler's tremendous success over the last few years has been partly due to the fact that they couldn't find anyone good enough to back him up in a committee. They've been always trying to put him in a committee. It's just he's like the last man standing out of all of those. So Josh Kelly stands a pretty good chance of producing this year.
All right, Minnie. So I saw that you had a question here about full PPR with a 5 running back limit. You got Rashad Penny, not Rashad White. I'm sorry. Ramondre Stevenson, Christian McCaffrey, Sharp, and Warren. You want to drop anyone for Kelly, Sean Tucker, Justice Hill, Roshan Johnson, Kyron Hull? I mean, I'll be honest. People are really panicking on Sharp, on Zach Charbonnet. I want to point out real quick. When you draft rookie running backs, if you're grabbing them, not everyone you draft needs to be useful right away. You should have a couple spots that you're just waiting to hold to see as they develop as the season goes on. And Zach Charbonnet is going to be a guy. Like, historically, Pete Carroll likes to use a running back rotation. Like, he likes running the ball. He likes having a bunch of guys. The fact that Sharp didn't get a lot of looks isn't necessarily indicative of him being bad. I'm not cutting Sharp. I'm not panicking on him yet. Jaylen Warren is a guy that if you grab him, you like him. Like, the running backs you have, the fact that you have a 5 running back limit sucks. But I will say, oh God, I hate Rashad White. I don't even know, what did Rashad White do this week?
Nothing.
I don't have any shares, so I kind of want to take a look real quick here.
He had a lot of touches, but not a lot of efficiency, I think.
I mean, so basically he's picking up where he left off last year.
Right.
I'm trying to find him here. Yeah, he wasn't even an RB2. Rashad White, 17 carries for 39 yards, 2 catches. Oh, yeah, no, he did not look good at all. And he's, like, I don't want to tell you, I personally hate Rashad White. From what I saw against the Vikings, I don't even think the Vikings defense is that good. So he's not someone I'm really looking at very hard. Like, yeah, 2 yards per carry. And the Vikings defense isn't predicted to be that good. Although they did look good this week, they were also playing Tampa Bay, whose offense is not predicted to be good. So, like, week 1, not a lot of information. I don't like him. I will say I like Kyron and I like Joshua Kelly a lot more than I like Rashad White personally. But at the same time, I don't know. This is one of those where you got to get your guy. Like, how do you feel about these guys? I made my cases for Joshua Kelly. I made my cases for Kyron Williams. I actually I think Kyron Williams could end up being sneaky good value. Like, he's a guy that I'm really going to be eyeing hard in the leagues where Algier isn't my number 1 ad. I like him. Joshua Kelly, I still don't know how much of a guy he's going to be. He got the looks, he's got the snap share, but it's still week 1. I have a feeling it's going to be a rotation, but at the same time, I also think the Chargers are going to be throwing the ball a lot more than they run the ball. So I don't know what that value for Joshua Kelly is going to be. He's not a guy I'm anxious to pull the trigger on yet, but he is the guy I'm going to be looking at. The last running back that I talk about in my waiver wire article is Roschon Johnson, and I'm only talking about him because I'm a Bears fan. Also because I've been stumping for him all offseason. I've said he's going to end up being the lead back in Chicago before the season's over. That's just a claim I have been making. In week 1, he had the highest snap share of any of the running backs of the Bears. I don't know how much of that was because the game started to get out of hand, but at the same time, the Bears starters were still in. They were giving him looks in the passing game and in the running game. He had 55 all-purpose yards, and the reason he finished as the RB12 is because he got a touchdown. So he got looks. I don't know, but Roschon's a guy too. If you're picking him up, like Roschon's not a guy I'm picking up if I have Sharp. I don't need more than 2 rookie running backs on my team. So, but if I didn't have Sharp, like if I don't have any rookie running backs, he is a breakout rookie running back on a team that's going to run the ball more than anyone not named the Atlanta Falcons. So those are the running backs that I'm really looking at here. We got to get the waiver wire. We got to get to the wide receivers here because I only have a little bit of time left before I got to go to work. Let's talk about the best name in fantasy football right now. I'm talking about Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell. That was an interesting. These guys are rostered in 3% of their leagues under Rams. We were wondering who was going to take over that target share for Cooper Kupp. It looks like both of those guys did it. Tutu Atwell is a second-year receiver. Puka Nacua, he is a rookie. Both of them had 119 yards receiving. Puka Nacua had 10 catches. Tutu Atwell had 6 catches. Honestly, like everyone was talking about Van Jefferson, and Van Jefferson was on the field more than those guys, but he didn't get the looks that Puka got, that Atwell got. Gun to my head, I think I like Puka Nacua a little bit more, just because he had the highest like reception rate. He had a lot of yards. He was averaging 11 yards a catch. That's nice. That's real nice. I'm kind of curious how good Seattle's defense is, though, because they weren't that good last year. They definitely were inconsistent. So it's hard to get really excited about that. Captain Crunch, my thoughts on any indie running back right now is that beat writers did say, and Minnie, you're right about that. The beat writers in Los Angeles did say that Puka was going to have a very decent role. So the fact that we were told he would have a decent role and then in week 1 he showed out, that's also why he's one of the top guys that I'm going to be looking at.
In my opinion, in Indy, as soon as Zach Moss gets his wrist, good enough to go, he's going to be the lead back. I watched that Indy game and I wasn't really impressed with anything that Jackson was doing.
The RB1 in Indy is Anthony Richardson. That's what it is. It's what I said about all the other rushing quarterbacks. Like the only reason I even look at Roschon is because the Bears were a top 2 rushing offense last year. They gave the ball to the running back, so he'll have that value. But at the same time, he's also a guy you're holding late. But he's the guy that but even still, I don't want running backs on teams with rushing quarterbacks. Their ceiling is capped. I'm not looking at Indy. I'm not looking at Indy running backs. That's where I'm at personally. But you know what I'm looking at? And I want to talk about a guy that I think that we kind of, I know for a fact I dropped the ball on this. I think a lot of us as a fantasy community kind of ignored. Zay Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Zay Jones, Football Absurdity was all in on Christian Kirk. But I think one thing we kind of forgot is that Christian Kirk is a slot receiver, which means he's not going to be on the field unless they're in 3 receiver sets. He's going to be that limits the amount of time he's going to be on the field. Zay Jones is a boundary receiver, and last year he was the overall wide receiver 26 and half PPR. Week 1, 5 catches, 55 yards, and 1 touchdown. We need to really, really consider, grabbing Zay Jones. I don't know if he's going to be the highest ceiling, but we all are predicting that Jacksonville is going to be an emerging offense. And Zay Jones looks like he might be the number 2 option on that offense. But then again, Zay Jones was also really inconsistent last year. I think he's a decent floor guy. I don't know. His ceiling will be there a couple of times a week. He's a guy that I like to look at. I think he's worth keeping an eye on. But the only receiver I'm truly excited about on the waiver wire in week 1 is Puka Nacua. That's the guy I kind of want more than anyone else. But there are a couple of wide receivers I kind of want to bring to your attention because I think uh, they're worth noting. One guy here, Romeo Doubs of the Packers. Now, Romeo Doubs, if you know me, you know if you listen to me talk before, I love drafting young receivers that are in a position to emerge off their previous season. Romeo Doubs showed flashes in his rookie season last year. He's a year 2 guy. I love year 2, year 3 receivers that have like shown flashes. So in that regard, I kind of like Doubs. And in week 1, he had 4 catches for 26 yards and 2 touchdowns. But like I said about Jordan Love, he was playing a Bears defense that might just be really, really bad. So that makes me nervous. It also makes me sad as a Bears fan. I thought.
And what do you think about Dobbs' production once Christian Watson is returned?
Damn, you beat me to my next point. The other thing is like one thing that concerned me. He was only 4th in snap share among wide receivers. He was the number 4 like snap percentage. But I think that they also started pulling starters in the 4th quarter because they were beating the Bears so much. So I don't know how that influenced that number. But Christian Watson being out also makes a difference. But that also, if the Packers offense actually does emerge and improve, like they can sustain more than one wide receiver. Top 10 offenses can have 2 good receivers, and Romeo Doubs is the clear number 2 guy there. So I think I think Romeo Doubs is someone that's worth watching, but not necessarily grabbing this year. He's a guy that this week. He's someone that you should definitely be flagging. But yeah, Christian Watson is the clear number 1. He's been hurt. If Christian Watson's out next week and you need someone to plug in, I mean, Doubs is definitely a guy I'd be looking at to stream.
Although, to be honest, Aaron Jones went down, so that actually might move the needle.
Aaron Jones was only, but if you looked at that, it looks like it wasn't a full hamstring. He even said if the game wasn't already out of hand, he could have come back in. So I'm not like too worried about that.
It was half a hamstring.
Well, he said it was like a little bite. Is all it was. Like he's like, I've had a full hamstring. He's like, it was just a little nibble. So here's the last guy I want to talk about on the waiver wire, and I only am talking about him because he was the wide receiver 4 in week 1. He had 6 catches for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. His name is Kendrick Bourne of the New England Patriots. Now, here is my problem with Kendrick. Is he is a New England Patriot skill position player, and we all have played the Bill Belichick game with running backs, with wide receivers. Guys, it's very rare, at least in the last 5 years, for them there to be consistent fantasy producers. Jacoby Myers was that guy. Maybe Kendrick Bourne could take that role. He did lead the team in snap share. You're looking at maybe getting rid of Marvin Mims or Rashad Bateman.
Mims,
that's a tough one.
Mims.
If I had to pick one of those guys to get rid of, it would probably be Marvin Mims. Shane, I'm sorry. Please don't hate me for saying that. The reason is because I don't think that Denver was that impressive this week. Bateman also, Bateman had some catches this week. He looked good. Like, that offense overall, the Ravens' offense looked like it kind of struggled. Like, Lamar Jackson didn't have a good stat line. They still put up 22 points and beat the Texans by double digits. I think that's only going to get better. The thing that worries me about Bateman is I think he might be the third option on that offense. So I think both of them, I would probably rather have Puka over both of those guys, if I'm being honest. Because I think Puka looks like he's going to have a very significant role, at least for the first few weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if Kupp comes back, it's not like Stafford can't throw to 2 receivers. I think that only will give Puka better looks. So, yeah, I'm fine with cutting either of those guys for him. Kendrick Bourne, the thing is though, he's the guy that I'm going to flag to look at for later, see if he has a good second week. Because, like I said before, Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator, they have not had a real offensive coordinator in a while in New England. And I'm hoping just having some offensive structure will help. And if so, he could be the number 1 receiving option there. I assumed it would be Juju, but I don't know. it's a mess. I don't want
Well,
any of it.
and to be fair, Mac Jones might be the type of quarterback that likes the security blanket. So who knows? Well,
But Juju is a security blanket kind of guy. He's a guy who you basically oh, sorry, I'm trying to think of how to frame this. He runs a lot of curls, a lot of inside routes, so he's coming back to the quarterback, give himself a lot of like. He's not a yak guy. He's a
mhm,
guy who's just gonna like turn around, sit in his route, get the ball, comes to him, and then he just gets tackled,
mhm.
unless he can break a tackle. You love Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry. Well, I'm glad you like that because I'm going to talk about Hunter Henry. And if you read my waiver wire article, you will know the one thing I always say is don't ever burn a waiver on a tight end. It's very rare that I will tell you that you should if a guy's emerging. Hunter Henry was the tight end one on the season. I'd be more impressed if Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce played, but they didn't. He had 5 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. Like I said with Mac Jones, I need more production before I trust. Like, I need more production from Henry before I'll trust him on a waiver wire. Hunter Henry has not been relevant in years. Tight ends, I mean, they're so boomer bust. You can't really trust burning a waiver on them. I will say, the one rookie that I kind of like that I'm looking at, I don't even know if I think he's like 60% rostered though. I'm gonna throw out a little Sam Laporta love. I don't like rookie tight ends, but he's a guy that I'm going to keep an eye on, just because like that boy could be nice. That boy could be real nice. So yeah, that's the only tight end I even bother talking about. All the tight ends sucked in week 1, just like they suck every week because tight ends are terrible.
Well, it also has something to do with the major ones getting injured, and also all of the main quarterbacks that have, gotten paid the last 2 years decided to take week 1 off. So, you know,
You know, the one thing I don't do my defensive streamer article, and I didn't plan until tomorrow, and I didn't quite plan this out yet. But I kind of want to take a look at week 2, and get an idea for what defenses you guys might be looking at. Don't worry, this is the waiver article. This is the waiver wire show. You should not be burning a waiver priority on a defense unless the Dallas Cowboys are somehow on your waiver wire, which I've seen 2 different people in our Discord say Dallas is on their waiver wire. You remember I said number 1 defense um, for the year. So I absolutely want that. We have a week 2 here. Let's see what week 2 is going to be. Okay, let's look at some of these games. Um, who are the Giants playing? Who are the Bears playing? So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Actually, I gotta look at some of these defensive rankings on the week here. I want to see who the best fantasy defense is. We already know that it was Dallas is number 1. They had to have been.
30 points.
They made me a lot of money. I had a random because they gave me a 50% profit boost. I decided to throw $1 random bet on the under for the Giants game. Daniel Jones rushing yards over at 32.5, and a Dallas Cowboys defensive touchdown. That was my long shot to just jack it up. And who knew the Cowboys defensive touchdown would be the first thing that happened? That defense was good. The New York Jets defense also had a really good showing against one of the best quarterbacks in football. But those guys are like 95% rostered. Arizona Cardinals had a good defensive performance against Washington, but I don't know that I believe in Washington. The Packers had were the 4th defense, the number 4 defense against the Bears, which is why I look at the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, and I think they did all right. I mean, the Bucks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were the number 13 defense in fantasy this past week against the Vikings.
But
The
how are
Vikings
they
offense
against the
is actually
screen
really
pass,
good.
though, Waleed?
I mean, I don't know because most offenses try throwing it down the fucking field. Damn it, that pissed me off. Yeah, while we were talking, the Bears just attempted another screen pass for 1 yard.
Yeah.
But the Bucks playing against the Bears, that's a good God. This could be really bad for the Bears. Hopefully they can do something, but I have a feeling that defense is going to just really show out. We're going to get a better feel for what they look like this week, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might end up being a really nice streamer offense against the Bears because the Bears are already giving up a lot of. I mean, they're already giving up top 5 points to opposing defenses. What's another team that just looked like absolute garbage on offense. Who are the Texans playing? Indianapolis Colts defense. They showed nicely against Jacksonville, but I don't know that I trust the. I don't know that I would trust the Colts defense. Two rookie quarterbacks playing against each other feels like something that might not be worth doing. See what's another possible. Yeah, until I dig in a little bit more, it's hard for me to say what the best defensive streamer. Oh my God, the number 2 and number 1 fantasy defense playing each other. Jets Cowboys. Take the under in that game.
Well, especially because Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson's gonna get his head knocked off, but.
All right. We got a good feel about Puka Nakao against the 49ers in week 1. Yeah, honestly, I think the defensive streamer for the week is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will say the New Orleans Saints is a favorite one, actually. But they're probably rostered in a lot of your leagues. I see that they're 78% owned. They're playing the Panthers. They're a team that people were taking early just because they thought they were to get some good looks. Washington, who are they playing? Broncos, that might not be a bad defensive streamer also, but they're 82% rostered. And I think, yeah, I got to start getting ready for work, guys. So thank you very much for joining us. Minnie, why would you? This is why I berate you in the Discord all the time, because you don't listen to me. I told you to get Dallas, and then you went with Washington instead. Dallas, like, this is Micah Parsons' erasure. You are a monster, Minnie. That's how I'm ending this. That's how I'm ending this stream, by calling you a monster, Minnie. Hayden Hurst won your game for you. The fact that you started Hayden Hurst is kind of depressing. But hey, if he won, he won. Hey guys, thank you for joining me, me and Josh. Josh, do you have anything you want to say before we go?
Nope.
All right, hey guys, thank you very much. We'll be doing this every Tuesday morning to get you guys a head start on the waiver wire.
If at all you guys have any questions throughout the week that you guys want us to answer, or you come up with questions Sunday night or Monday night, shoot us a message in the Discord. You can join our Discord at Football Absurdity Discord. I've been Josh. He's been Waleed. We'll see you guys next time.
We say good night. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Night. Yeah.